Down south, we bless more hearts than Oral Roberts at a cardiologist convention. So yes, I was a metal detectorist. No, I didn't vote, or when I did, I voted for whoever had the coolest hair or the most catchy campaign song, because after all, no politician would ever threaten my hobby, not the hobby that I loved. But eventually, I came to realize I needed to find a way to make a living from what had become my passion, and it was truly a passion. After seeing that I couldn't find enough loose change in parks to pay my rent, and refusing to sell any of the valuable Civil War relics which I had started finding regularly, I took to writing. Now there's another great Southernism, another great South expression for you. I took to writing. That's right up there with, let me explain what took to this first though. I took to writing. I took to writing. In other words, I began literary exploits on a piece of paper. I took to writing. It's okay. I'm from Georgia. We understand these things. And that's right up there with, I got a good one for y'all. G-Jet yoke to?
Yeah.
Does anybody know what G-Jet yoke to is?
Yeah.
Okay. If you do, don't embarrass yourself. It's okay. And be careful if you laugh, because you might have a son that grows up to be like me one day. G-Jet want to, that means, did you eat yet? Do you want to? G-Jet want to. You've just got to know where to put your J's. Folks, I'm going to have you all speaking the King's English before we get out of here tonight. The King, of course, being Elvis Presley. Anyway, back to the serious subjects. I started writing about metal detecting. I started submitting articles to the Treasure magazines, and I found out the best kept secret in the world about writers. That is, most writers who write for Treasure magazines or hobby magazines in general are paid nothing more for their work except to occasionally get free comp copies, and sometimes, if they are not the cartoonist for American Digger magazine over here, they get their name spelled right. We actually have Steve Menzer, I don't want to embarrass him, but Steve Menzer and Bart Schulzer are sitting over there. They do columns and cartoons for American Digger magazine. And poor Steve has had his name misspelled in our magazine more than, it's going to be in the Guinness World Book of World Records, because in 36 issues, I think we've spelled it right twice. So I'm hoping Steve will do the proper thing and do sort of like Sting did, just go by Steve. I can spell Steve. Anyway, though, the magazines that did pay their authors, and there were a few that actually paid, but they sent me checks sometimes that approached 4 digits counting both sides of the decimal point. It was not lucrative, but I love sharing my passion for detecting while developing my rather unique sense of humor. You notice I said unique, that's with quotation marks. My loving grandmother once told my mama, honey, that boy got a lot of just ain't right in him. And she was right. Bless her heart. So I kept writing. I kept metal detecting. And in that time, I never noticed that in some places, people were starting to look down on metal detectors. In turn, these anti-detectorists were bending the public's ear with the perceived harm that we did. They steal history, these detractors said in their lectures. They leave huge holes, they shouted in archaeological reports. They make it impossible for the archaeologists to do their work, they screamed from the university ivory towers. They sell their finds, they said as they were picking up their paychecks for archaeological digs. They are ignorant and uneducated and must be stopped, they pleaded in the office of congressman, and unfortunately, the congressman listened. Meanwhile, I ignored it all because such things affected they, not me. After all, I knew I wasn't the one stealing history or leaving open holes or hindering archaeologists or selling my finds unnecessarily or being uneducated and ignorant, no matter what my beloved grandmama said. I was different, so these laws would not affect me. Besides, I was too busy metal detecting and writing about it to vote. Unfortunately, though, the anti-metal detectors did find time to vote. Finally, I decided to write a book, Never Mace a Skunk. Then I followed that up with another book, Never Mace stuck too. Both are humorous accounts of Metal Detective. They sold well, and they related the strange and funny experiences of metal detectors dealing with. Folks, these books would make you laugh, they would make you cry, they would make you shudder, they would make you reminisce, they would make you ask for refunds, but they sold great. And the only thing that they didn't do was make people get involved with the laws that were affecting the hobby of metal detecting. So, seeing that I couldn't quit my day job of being a machinist in order to pursue my first two loves, which of course was metal detecting and writing, I finally decided to start a magazine in my spare time, and American Digger magazine was born. And after all, if I couldn't make a living connected to metal detecting, or if I couldn't make a living connected to metal detecting, I might as well publish something on a regular basis because I love the hobby so much and I love writing. The funny thing is, once I decided that I was just going to do this in my spare time, and just because it was fun, it grew so quickly that within 6 months I had to quit my full-time job. So I quit machining a little over 6 years ago, took a huge cut in pay, and lived happily thereafter. And anybody that ever considers doing something because you love it, I strongly recommend it because you'll never regret going into work. American Digger magazine has now become one of the top magazines for metal detectors. And it's the #1 for those who enjoy finding historical artifacts mixed in with your tool tabs. And thanks to Mark Schulzer, sitting at the table over here, everyone knows him, who does a regular legal column for us, as well as our involvement with the FMDAC, we have also become a voice in getting detectors to at least be aware of the laws affecting the hobby. We may not can get them to act, but we can at least make them aware of it, and hopefully they'll do something about it. We also spread the word via the emails, Twitter. Yes, we're Twits now. We're on Twitter. American Digger Facebook page. And hey, if you want to have fun, go to the American Digger Facebook page because we always have something going on there. And we've also got a live weekly show called Internet Round. We have a weekly live internet show called Relic Roundup. I'm sorry, I got my tongue tumbled in my eye tooth. I couldn't see what I was saying. Anyway, you got to be quick, folks, I'm telling you. Okay, on the Relic Roundup, we invite listeners to call in with their concerns and comments about metal detecting. And while the shows are on a variety of topics concerning metal detecting and treasure hunting, wherever there's a legal issue and whenever we hear of one, we try to get the word out on the show. And the show's on the internet. It's every Monday night at 9 to 10 o'clock. You can read more about it in American Digger magazine. There's an ad in there. And if you love metal detecting, you need to tune into the show. Now, when the shows are on a variety of topics, or while the shows are on a variety of topics concerning metal detecting, like I say, whenever there's a legal issue, we try to spread the word. We try to get people involved. We try to have guests concerning that. But here is the very, very sad fact. On the Relic Roundup shows where we discuss new technology, the best detecting methods, what search coils are best, things like that, our switchboards light up with calls. Okay, actually our computers light up with calls because we upgraded last month. But on the shows where we discuss laws or legal issues, very, very few people call in. Now they listen to the shows, they come on the chat lines, and Anita handles the chat line. They'll talk about the latest search coil, or who's finding what, or what about the new machine that White's has gotten that they're putting out, or what kind of digging tool is best. But they ignore the legal issues completely, and that's sad. And that's why we have so much problem with these laws getting passed. And on one recent Relic Roundup, when South Carolina was passing some of its bills that I don't agree with, but they passed them, we were trying to get people involved. And we had several shows concerning that, but on one particular show, we had not 5, not 4, not 3, but we had one single caller that called in a 1 hour period. And meanwhile, the chat rooms were just lit up, none of them about the laws. They were talking about what kind of batteries to use, where to go metal detected, who was doing what. But nobody wanted to talk about the law. The law was passed. Why? Because nobody got involved. So, too many of us want to sit back and remain silent. And what we need to do is what I've already discussed. We need to say this to our local and state politicians and to anyone that will listen, and that is, I am a metal detectorist and I vote. So, that's it, folks. See, I was kidding about this being a 2-hour speech. Aren't you glad? That's it. That's my story, how one fellow, born hungry, crying, and confused, and, okay, naked, discovered not only metal detecting, but also how to make a living at it. But more importantly, that fella who now stands before you, humbled at this opportunity you've given him, but yet also saddened by the fact that most of you have never listened to Elvis while eating good free-range grits and drinking sweet tea, or don't even know what wine goes best with fried green tomatoes. Yes, there is such a thing as that in the South. And as far as the wines go, I prefer something with a colorful boutique, like a bright purple ripple. Good. That fella has learned that to take our hobby for granted is to lose it. And we're losing it. And we don't need to lose it because this is the best hobby in the world. So let's spread the word. Let's take note of the ones that push for anti-metal detecting bills. Let's talk to them. Let's educate them. If they still won't listen, I've got an idea. Let's publish their names before the next re-election so we don't make the same mistakes twice. I want to tell you a little story that happened 2 or 3 months ago down in Savannah, Georgia. We were at a show there. And for people that don't know the history of what happened in Georgia political-wise about 10 years ago, there was a big flap over the state flag. Frankly, my own opinion, I thought it was a little silly, but what do I know? But the sons of Confederate veterans were fighting to keep the Confederate flag on the Georgia state flag. Well, eventually it was voted off, although a lot of people wanted to keep it on there. So I saw a guy walking through, and he had on a t-shirt, and obviously it wasn't custom made. There were a lot of them around like this. And on the back of that t-shirt, it had in big letters, "These are the politicians that voted against the flag." And it had their names listed and their districts and what party they were with. So anyone at a glance could look at that and go, gosh, I might ought not to vote for him next time. Now what if we did something like that at metal detectors? What if we started wearing shirts? But whether we do t-shirts or what, let's at least create a list, state by state, before each election of politicians who have shown themselves in the past to be anti-metal detecting. They made this decision to vote against our hobby. They need to be told they made a mistake. And I think this may have been done